All right, looks like we up and running here. So, if you're tuning in, appreciate it. This is a podcast. I'm just loading up. My name is Trey, and this is the 10 Minutes Give Me 10 podcast. Again, the Give Me 10 podcast. So, we're about 15 seconds in. If you're still listening, I need another 9 minutes and 40 seconds approximately of your time. You know, I know in today's era, there are tons of podcasts, especially sports podcasts. It can be overwhelming. It can be overloading. So, you know, I came up with this idea, give me 10 minutes time. What I hope to do throughout all these series of videos is to create dialogue based on recent sports topics that came up. As you can see right now, I got a picture of Paul Pierce and Dwyane Wade. Well, it's really quite simple. You know, Paul Pierce came out and said he had a better career than Dwyane Wade. And I think it's absolute blasphemy. And that's not necessarily a diss to Paul Pierce. Paul Pierce, to me, is a Hall of Famer. He's probably a top 5, top 10, probably top 10 Celtic, maybe the best NBA franchise. Where, especially when it's a player like Dwyane Wade, who has been such a standout individual for the game, both on the court, off the court. This is a time to show respect. It's not a time I'm trying to get yours and try to prove that, oh, well, you know what, he was great, but not better than me. Please. For one, you're misinformed and you're wrong. And two, you just sound for no reason. It makes it sound worse that it's just not true. But there were some that came the defense of Paul Pierce, and I want to be able to kind of respond to that. So Mark Stein, Mark Spears, who's actually a writer for ESPN, tweeted this about Paul Pierce. What made at Paul Pierce 34, Paul Pierce's Twitter feed, the truth was he believed in himself more than anyone. Wasn't the best shooter, wasn't the most athletic, wasn't the tallest, but he was as competitive as anyone I ever covered in 20 years. Kobe, KG, LeBron, Draymond, etc. Number 34 was driven by the odds against him. Okay, so let me unpack that for a second. The odds against him. So Paul Pierce, being from Inglewood, California, you know, I'm sure he's seen a lot, went through a lot. But to say that, to try to make this kind of narrative that Paul Pierce had this great, tough road to get to where he got to, in comparison to Dwyane Wade, which it comes off as a little bit, I think you're doing Dwyane Wade's path a disservice. What you have to understand is Dwyane Wade, we've seen the 3 championships, scoring champion, part of the, you know, the big 3 in Miami, being the maybe the 3rd best shooting guard of all time. We've seen that. But Dwyane Wade was not highly recruited out of high school. You do realize he had like 3 offers out of high school. He didn't even play his first year at Marquette due to academic issues. Think about that. Marquette, which was in the USA Conference, not even the Big East, like it is today, the USA Conference. He was a nobody at that particular school. No one knew Dwyane Wade's name. Oh, don't forget, you know, you talk about the tallest. Well, hold on a second. I forgot when Dwyane Wade is 6'8". He's a 6'4" 2 guard. And yet he has accomplished as much as anybody, any other 2 guard in the game. Champion, finals MVP. Sorry about that, guys. I had to pause the video for a second. You probably won't see that, but I had to pause my recording. I had attempted something real quick. But as I was saying, Dwyane Wade's path to get to where he's gotten. Undersized 2 guard, 2, maybe 3 star tops coming out of high school. He even played his first year at Marquette. He only played 2 years in college, mind you, at that. And he took Marquette, which was a school with no real basketball history. I mean, Doc Rivers played there, but I'm talking about championships, Final Four appearances. He took that team to the Final Four. And then was part of maybe the best draft in terms of overall talent in the history of the NBA, the class of 2003, which was LeBron James, Carmelo Anthony, Dwyane Wade, Chris Bosh, and the list goes on and on. And if you remember, once the draft happened, going into that year, Dwyane Wade was a back headline. You know, the headlines for that draft and the excitement for that entire 03-04 season was the additions to the league of Carmelo Anthony and LeBron James. Carmelo Anthony and LeBron James. When they met up, Denver versus Cleveland, that was national TV, ESPN. Miami wasn't even put on national TV games until Dwyane Wade got to the All-Star weekend. He had a nice rookie challenge, but no one barely interviewed him. He talked about this in his documentary, which was early in his career, called Undeniable. It's like after his third year, I think he won a championship in 06. He talked about that. He went to NBA All-Star weekend. No one interviewed him, really. Everybody was with Carmelo Anthony and LeBron James. There's actually a clip that they showed. Dwyane Wade had to spell his name out. I'm not sure exactly why. But you're talking about beating the odds. Undersized two guard, not highly recruited out of high school, getting drafted to a franchise that doesn't have a history of winning. Takes him to the play. Let's recap what he did the first 3 years in the league. First year, takes him to the playoffs. First round victory over Indiana Pacers. Excuse me, not Indiana Pacers. The Charlotte Hornets. They lost to the Pacers in the second round. Second year, Miami wins 50-plus games. Got an addition of Shaq. Mind you, and I got to say this about Shaq real quick. Shaq's all-time great. Shaq maybe the most dominant NBA player of all time. But you know what? The Shaq that was in Miami was the same Shaq in the Lakers as the Magic. Also with the Magic, okay? He was a little overweight. He was older. His body started to break down on him. So yes, he was still dominant, still a force, but he wasn't the same guy. And I need people to stop with this narrative that, because he had Shaq, that it was like Shaq and Kobe in terms of how he changed the game. No. Let's not get it twisted. Same guy, different body. Game wasn't exactly the same. Health wasn't exactly the same. So, don't forget Dwyane Wade was the driving force for those Heat teams. So second year in the league, they win 50-plus games. They get to the Eastern Conference Finals, and they face the defending champion Detroit Pistons, my Detroit Pistons. And they take the Pistons to 6 games. 6 games. Maybe, I think it was 7 games, if I'm not mistaken. 6 or 7 games. And I'm actually pretty lucky looking back at Dwyane Wade suffered an oblique strain that kept him out of Game 5, I believe, and he was kind of hindered in Game 6. But anyway, takes the Pistons to 6, 7 games. They fall a little short. Comes back the very next season in his third year in the league. Shaq goes out for an extended amount of time in that year, and he takes the Miami Heat to the NBA Finals, dethrones the Detroit Pistons on the way there, and wins the NBA championship as the NBA Finals MVP. Mind you, he averaged 37 points throughout that series. The guy. Being the guy. It wasn't Shaq. He was the guy. Oh, and let's recap on that Heat team who was on there. Old Antoine Walker and old Gary Payton, role players at this point in their career. James Posey, role player. Jason Williams, wasn't saying white chocolate, he was in Sacramento, an older Jason Williams. He was mostly a three-point shooter at that point in time. Old Alonzo Mourning as the backup center. Dwyane Wade won a championship. Dwyane Wade also was the biggest reason LeBron James went to Miami. LeBron James may be the best player, definitely top 5 player of all time. The reason why I went to Miami was because Dwyane Wade. That was his friend. You know what? Dwyane Wade also was very special doing this. He knew how to close. He knew how to win games. He was a champion. He was a leader. So he goes to win 3 championships. And so, I know I'm glossing over Dwyane Wade a little bit, but I think we need to give this guy some respect here. You need to understand his path and what he accomplished so quickly. I want to go over time here. So I wanted to kind of go over quick, statistic comparisons of these two guys' career because you need to see the difference. We need to understand the difference. So let's start with championships. Paul Pierce got one. Dwyane Wade got three. Oh, Dwyane Wade had LeBron James, Chris Bosh. Hey. Don't forget, Paul Pierce played with two Hall of Famers, Ray Allen and Kevin Garnett, right? Okay, so I want to hear that. His first championship came when it wasn't LeBron James and Chris Bosh there. How about playoff All-Star games? Paul Pierce 10, Dwyane Wade 13. Same Finals MVP. How many All NBA first teams? So the All NBA teams, each team, first team, second team, third team, is 5 slots, right? 5 slots for each team. Paul Pierce never made it. Dwyane Wade made it twice. So if you look at it from 5 slots, who's the top 5 players in that particular year in the entire league? Dwyane Wade was top 5 in the league twice. How many times Paul Pierce? None. How about, let's see who's a better all-around player, right? How about defense? All defensive teams, Dwyane Wade made that 3 times. How many times for Paul Pierce? 0. Dwyane Wade was a scoring champion as well. You just can go through the different stats. Points per game, Dwyane Wade over his career, 22. Paul Pierce, 19.7. Assists, 3.5. Paul Pierce, Dwyane Wade, 5.4. Dwyane Wade had more steals, blocks. I mean, you talk about a guy who has accomplished so much in this league. And Paul Pierce, don't let me take that away from him. I'm not trying to take that away from him. He's great. The truth was the truth. He was clutch. He was fantastic. In 08 in Game 7, when they was in a tooth and nail game versus the Cavs with LeBron James, it was Paul Pierce that hit all 41 points, 41 to 42 points, and led them to the NBA Finals. Well, not the NBA Finals, excuse me, to the next round versus Detroit Pistons. Paul Pierce is great. He had a great career. But in terms of being an all-around player, beating the odds, carrying the franchise, Paul Pierce is not, has not, and was never a better player than Dwyane Wade. If you don't believe me, check the stats, courtesy of landofbasketball.com. Look at the comparisons. Think about the moments. Think about the years in which Dwyane Wade had no other superstar. Think about the 08-09 season, which I believe he should have won MVP. I think he finished second that year. How many years did Paul Pierce, was he even a conversation for NBA season MVP? You know what I'm saying? Really take a chance and think about that. When was Paul Pierce ever considered, man, if, you know, you have looking at 5 slots for the best players in the league right now. At any point in Paul Pierce's career, when was he like, yep, Paul Pierce is going to be my starting 3? There's a point in time Dwyane Wade was. And you're like, well, what about Kobe? No, you know what? There was a point in time when people were wondering, you know what? Or you can at least see like, hey, Kobe may be number 1, but Dwyane Wade may be 1B. He was that close. Part of the Olympic team, the Redeem team. Kobe talks about in his book how special Dwyane Wade was. So what did he do with Paul Pierce? Dwyane Wade, in my opinion, is the 3rd best shooting guard of all time. Paul Pierce, on the other hand, can you name 5 small forwards better than him that had a similar career, better career? It's a much easier argument. I'll argue it's a much tougher argument for Dwyane Wade for 5 players at his position better than him. So you don't believe me? Check the stats. Think about the moments. I may have gone over time here, but this is 10 minutes with Dre. Give Me 10, the Give Me 10 podcast. It's the first recording of many, baby. So if you've been listening to this point, I appreciate your time. We'll talk again soon.